is up, friends? Well, the Kiro Tarakai GameCast, the podcast where the authors of Kiro Tarakai discuss the latest and the not-so-latest of gaming and everything in between. What else is up? Well, we are just back from watching the Super Mario Bros. Movie, the first major motion picture based on a wholly owned Nintendo franchise in 30 years. And we have only just returned from the cinema to discuss it in this episode of the Kiro Tarakai GameCast. Indeed, we have just returned, as I was not alone for this once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Let me introduce the guests for this episode by asking them what their favorite character in this film was. This is our first discussion format GameCast episode in quite some time, and for it, I am glad to be joined by 3 other authors of Kiro Tarakai. First up is Dr. Normal. Hello, Dr. Normal.
Hello.
So, Doc, tell me, what was your favorite character in the Super Mario Bros. Movie?
I do have a tie between Toad and the Magic Koopa. I love both their personalities.
Yes, Toad and Kamek. The voices fit pretty well, didn't they? And next up is my good friend, Jetstream. Which of the incredibly deep and complex characters in this film was your favorite?
I'm going to have to say Toad. Toad was just so fun.
Yes. And in case our listeners didn't know, my question to him was a joke. The plot and the characters were relatively straightforward and shallow. Nothing at all Shakespearean. And there was actually not much character development whatsoever. But on to our next guest. Our third and final guest. And next up is the one and only Tonywony. This is your first time on an episode of the Kiro Tarakai GameCast, so welcome, Tonywony.
Hi, how you doing?
Who was your favorite character in the film?
I gotta say, it was Donkey Kong.
Voiced by Seth Rogen.
Voiced by Seth Rogen, and I was expecting so much going in. Like, gotta say, I wasn't let down. I was not let down by that Donkey Kong.
Yeah, Seth Rogen's voice fits him surprisingly well, because it literally was just Seth Rogen's voice. And lastly, I might as well introduce myself. I'm Fawful DX, and I have to say my favorite character in the Super Mario Bros. Movie was Luigi, who was voiced by Charlie Day. I have to admit that I have a predisposed bias towards the man in green, but I genuinely enjoyed seeing his very cowardly personality that he just realized on the big screen so cartoonishly, and Charlie Day's cartoonish voice fit that so well. Even though Luigi really didn't have enough screen time in the film. Alright, before we dive into the particular elements of the film, let's discuss our overall thoughts on it. So, one by one, let's say what we thought of the film as a whole.
My expectations, I was not disappointed. Like Nathan said, with the character development, there wasn't much, but the action, and I don't really think there was any bad animation. So I was not disappointed, and I would go see it again.
And first off, I'll start with my expectations as well. It certainly smashed my expectations. I wasn't expecting a lot, and I'll admit it moved a bit fast at times. There was a lot of chaos, but what's to expect for Mario? There's a lot of content there, and cram it in one movie is certainly a feat. And I think they did it well. They handled their time very wisely, and I think they got a lot in there without too much jumping around. They stayed on topic for most of the time, and I really appreciated the movie. It was one of the better ones I've seen.
Yeah, I liked it as a kid's movie. I mean, it definitely would outcompete, in my view, like maybe Despicable Me or Frozen. Looking at it through that, gauging it against them, maybe some more like destructive action scenes would have been nice. But
It's Mario.
you can't really put that in a kids movie. So I really liked it, but it was a little bit light on the plot, which is just something that aggravates me a little bit. But again, a kids movie.
Oh man, yeah, the tropes. Yeah,
But yeah, they needed more drama in it, like one of the Koopas said.
yeah, one of the red ones, yeah.
Drama.
And how did it meet your expectations, Jetstream?
It did. It was more like colorful and spazzy than I was expecting it to be.
Yeah.
But that's not really a bad thing. I feel like it was handled pretty well, especially like when they were moving really fast. I felt like the camera movement was kind of smooth, so you could get a feel for the action. It didn't feel like clunky or choppy like some animations do. Besides that, I mean, I didn't really expect much going in. I didn't expect a lot of plot or character development. It met my expectation for slapstick humor. Like,
Yes.
it was pretty much all there.
You said camera movement. The only thing a viewer is going to need to rewind the camera for is to catch the Easter eggs.
Yes, and we have
Yeah,
a
That's
section.
that's the only thing you'll need to rewind it because it's that clear.
Yeah,
Mhm.
we
So
will have a whole section dedicated to those
I
Easter
think
eggs.
they handled it very well, and I will say that's the most vibrant Mario I've ever seen.
Mhm.
But I think they handled it very well. The whole situation. I think the movie was. I think it touched on most everything throughout the movie.
And as for myself, I have a lot of thoughts on the Super Mario Brothers movie, as you guys know, and I'll try to distill them here and expand upon them throughout this episode. But I think the Super Mario Brothers movie was colorful chaos that in equal parts delighted and disappointed me. It extremely exceeded my expectations, but only because my expectations were pretty low. Ultimately, I feel it was Mario realized in a form faithful to the games. It really was quite the love letter to the series, but I think it could have been so much more. And we'll get into that as we go through this episode. And I'm so sorry to you guys, but here's one more thing before we dive into the particulars of this film. One last thing. This is a new GameCast segment that I have created specifically for this episode, Rapid Recall. I'm going to ask 3 questions about the film, and you're going to answer them as fast as possible, all right? I want speed. All right, it's time for Rapid Recall. So I'll start with the easiest question. And by the way, I'm going to go ahead and say these questions do contain slight spoilers. So, easiest question first. Who of these was not at Bowser's wedding? King Boo, King Babam, or King K. Rool?
King K. Rool.
Hey, Rule.
Do I have to answer too?
Yes.
Okay.
You all
King
can.
K. Rool.
Okay.
I answered as fast as I could.
All right, next question, a bit more difficult. Which of these Kongs did not appear in the film? Swanky Kong, Chunky Kong, or Karate Kong?
Karate Kong.
Chunky Kong.
Chunky Kong.
Okay, so 2 for Chunky Kong, 1 for...
I don't know, the
Karate
scene
Kong.
moved too fast for me to count on.
Yeah,
All
there
I
were
know
lots
is
of Kongs.
I did not see Funky Kong.
Too
He
many
could have
monkeys.
been there, but I did not see him.
Oh, Chunky Kong, not Funky Kong.
I know, but
Oh yeah, I didn't see Funky Kong either.
I would have loved
I mean,
to see him,
yeah.
but I didn't see any chunky monkey there.
He might have been in the background.
Maybe.
And lastly, for this...
Well, who was right?
I'm going to answer the questions
Oh,
at the
okay.
end of the episode.
Oh.
Suspense.
At the end of the episode? Oh, come on!
And now for one final ridiculously hard question with too many options. Which of these game franchises was not referenced in the film? And we have 7 options here. Kid Icarus, Duck Hunt, Star Fox, Bubble Bobble, The Legend of Zelda, Punch-Out, or Balloon Fight. And I could throw in an 8th, Ice Climbers.
Bubble Bobble? I don't even know what that is. So,
You're going to say Bubble Bobble?
yeah.
I didn't see any notable Zelda references. They might have gone completely over my head.
I didn't see any Zelda references either, so that's what I'm
Okay.
going
I think
to
I saw
Could
most
have
other
been
references
the
from
slightest piano key in the Zelda. All I know is I've never heard of the bubble whatnot.
Bubble
So, whatever
So,
it
do
is.
you guys both say Legend of Zelda?
I think it was Legend of Zelda.
Alright.
I didn't.
2 for Legend of Zelda, 1 for Bubble Bobble. And we'll... and this is going to be just like the trivia time in our normal GameCast episodes, where I'm not going to answer the question until the very end of the episode.
But don't fast forward all the way to the
Yeah,
end.
listen to the rest of the episode, please. It's going to create a sense of suspense. So, that's all for Rapid Recall.
You do get to hear about, what's his name? Swanky Kong, or whatever.
Swanky
Swanky
Kong,
Kong.
yeah.
Yeah, so don't
We're going to be
fast
talking about
forward.
Swanky Kong.
Never fast forward. Trust me.
Alright, and that's all for Rapid Recall. And now, let's move on to discussing what is one of the biggest negatives, in my opinion, the plot. And, I mean, we've talked about this a bit. We're introducing ourselves. We talked about how the plot was bare bones. What did you guys think of the plot?
Wow, okay. Back to expectations. It is a kid's movie.
Yeah.
This is not the Lord of the Rings where it takes
Oh,
prequels and sequels, alright? This is a kids' movie, and they want to focus on the kids to introduce them to Mario. So the plot wasn't heavily focused on. You could obviously tell there was a plot. Get the amazing star from Bowser. Spoiler alert. Oh, or it was in the preview. Whatever.
Yeah.
Regardless, just because it's a kids' movie, it's not going to be as I don't know, like in suspense. Like we were wanting to see it, but we weren't all going to go see it for the plot. You know? So the plot is for kids, easy to understand, not very developmental. You know? So
Yeah, I mean, this is Mario. What were we expecting?
yes.
Name one Mario game that isn't a Mario RPG that has a exciting and interesting plot. You really can't find any. And no, Dance Dance Revolution Mario Mix does not count as a good plot.
Super Mario Advance. I do not know anything about that game, but it was so boring.
I don't insult Super Mario Advance.
It was boring.
And what other thoughts do we have on the plot?
I appreciated the reference to the princesses in the castle. I felt that one hit home.
Yeah. We need to keep there was tons of lines like that.
my
We need to keep those lines to the Easter egg
Oh,
section.
my goodness. And yes, the plot moved pretty fast.
Yeah.
What was there? It stayed true to Mario. You know, he's trying to save Peach, and Bowser's trying to get Peach.
And marry.
And marry her. Well, yes. So I think it was definitely Mario. I don't think they really added any components. There were no twists.
Swanky Kong wasn't part of the plot. Just scrap the movie.
Swanky Kong, boycott the Mario movie. There was no Swanky Kong element to the plot. There was Swanky Kong. We'll talk about that later. But no Swanky Kong relevant to the
I
plot.
think they should rewrite it and make a sequel.
He slips on a banana. You can edit that.
Rest in peace. Swanky Kong.
Rip. Oh, wow.
And then you, Jetstream, what did you think of the plot?
I mean, the plot was pretty basic. Like, you set up going to the Mushroom Kingdom, then you set up why Mario needs to face Bowser, then you set up why Mario can't beat Bowser, and then Mario beats Bowser. I mean,
With Luigi.
Yeah, there really was no plot twist at all whatsoever.
but I also kind of feel
Swanky
like
Kong was a plot twist.
Okay.
He should have been.
We need to stop talking about
but I feel like the plot twist might have kind of ruined it a little bit, maybe. Like,
Mario doesn't really have a plot twist.
so, like, if you dropped this giant plot bomb, like,
Yeah, it wouldn't have fit the game.
It really wouldn't have fit the
original, Nintendo, the original NES. It never the game's pretty straightforward. It's mostly it's the journey, not the the end goal. It's not really about the game. The game's about the journey.
yeah.
Like all the different points he goes through, and that's basically the movie, in my opinion. It's very similar to the NES game. They have this journey, and it's not really heavy in the plot. It's just showing you all the different components of all the Mario games, and there's a lot there. So they, I think the plot wasn't their, center. It wasn't their focus.
Yeah, it was only acceptable, but I mean, again, this is Mario. But that's also not too much of an excuse, because this is a film, and films do need to tell stories. Films are about storytelling. And ultimately, yeah, it was slightly ironic that a Mario film has a poor plot, because that's what Mario games are known for. But yeah, those were my main issues with the film. The plot was poor, very by the books, and the pacing was also poor. They tried to cram too much into these. Only 92 minutes. But ultimately, there are some positive elements, and we'll eventually get to those. There were varying opinions on the plot. It was fitting that a Mario movie had a simple plot, but ultimately, the plot was pretty poor, and so was the pacing. But we all have our opinions about it. And now, let's touch on a topic related to plot, the dialogue. What did you think of the dialogue? How was it written? How was it delivered? And of course, we need to talk about the humor, because this is, after all, an Illumination film.
A+. Easy to understand, meant for kids. I don't want dialogue that I can't understand. So, that's my take.
Yeah, I mean, there was pretty much, no character building.
Yeah.
So, all the dialogue was humor, but that's fine.
Yeah. And if they had had a large amount of dialogue and like deep dialogue from Mario characters, I wouldn't have appreciated it. Like just like they had dialogue, but it's Mario and these characters don't really speak. So I think it was fitting that there wasn't a lot of dialogue.
And
It's a movie, it's a film, so you gotta have some.
Even the part of like the extra dialogue that went into like Peach's backstory, like that just felt so out of place. But that was kind of like the extra character building plot dialogue there.
Yes.
And it felt out of place. So like
yeah, exactly.
I feel like it was adequate.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes the dialogue was on spot, but I did feel that there were parts where the dialogue did feel artificial, and the lines really sometimes didn't fit the scenarios. But the dialogue, the mileage varied with it. Sometimes it felt fitting for the characters. Sometimes it felt a bit forced. And also the Peaches.
Yeah,
and
shout out for the song Peaches.
Oh man, yeah, we'll get to that when we talk in the music. That was and also the humor. It was typical tropish humor for children's films, and that's of course what children enjoy nowadays in the children's films. But I am known for not laughing much at jokes in movies. I keep a steely face most of the time. But I have to admit, there were a few parts that actually did make me laugh. And as we talked about after the movie, there's one character, Lumily, that's a Luma, that is obsessed with darkness and death. And of course, that humor goes a bit over the kids' heads. So that was some more mature humor that was
the only mercy you'll get is death.
Yes,
like that was terrible,
man.
But she said it in a baby, or he or she, I don't remember. Like said it in the baby voice, like death is mercy. I don't. It was.
Yeah, and man, that's such a huge character change for Lumily, because in the games Lumily says Luma Bob, welcome to the Luma shop, and it changed that ranting on about death. Most of the humor and dialogue sometimes did feel forced, but different things appealed to different people in the dialogue.
Lumily now goes death. That's about it. No more Luma shop or whatever it was.
And moving on to our next topic, we briefly discussed our favorite characters earlier, and now let's discuss the characters in general. What did you think of how these classic characters were, characterized? How well did you think they were realized on the big screen, and which ones stood out the most to you? And what did you think of the various voices used by the actors? That's a lot of questions, but let's answer them.
Like we said earlier, we aren't going to mention character building in this because there was none, but I think it was casted well. We all in this room, everyone here knows that Chris Pratt attracted a lot of people.
Yes.
Yeah, and ultimately he wasn't that bad.
No,
he wasn't.
I was surprised by how quickly I got used to the voices, to these actors' voices coming out of these characters I love, their mouths, coming out of their mouths. It was so surprising how quickly I got used to that. Because the voices, for the most part, they fit pretty well.
Especially like you said, Luigi.
Yeah.
I think that was on point. Like that's what I would
Charlie
expect.
Right.
Yes. That's what I was expecting. Like I think they did a good job on that, and like you said, Chris Pratt was. I say he did good, and even Jack Black did good. I mean, I'll throw him a bone. Even he did good. I was not expecting a lot from Jack Black.
Yeah, there's been a lot of praise of Black's performance here. Again, I was surprised by how well the voices fit the characters after how much controversy there's been about this casting. How are these actors going to portray these characters that we've grown up with and that we love? But ultimately, yeah, they fit pretty well. I mean, I felt slightly that sometimes, again, the dialogue was sometimes felt a bit forced, but ultimately, how they delivered their lines as characters fit well. Oh, wait, go ahead.
Now, what do you think about Peach? I think that would be my only personal, you think it was on point or, a little bit off?
Who else could have voiced her to do any better or change the story or the way we think about it?
That's true.
And hold on, I always say this actress's name wrong. I don't want another time where I say an actor's name wrong. After in my episode discussing Sonic the Hedgehog 2, I accidentally said Elvis Idra instead of Idra Elvis. That was quite the blunder.
Anya Taylor-Joy.
Anya Taylor-Joy.
And Charles Martinet popped up.
Yep. Yeah, well,
The best cameo, according to Nathan. I don't really know any other cameos.
Yeah, definitely. Let's talk about that cameo in the Easter egg section. Again, there were so many Easter eggs.
Oh my goodness.
But yeah, as you were talking about, Tony, yeah, what did we think of? You said that maybe Princess Peach's performance by Anya.
I'd say she had these. I don't want to say loudest. I think she had the strongest character. At certain points, it definitely showed itself. Like, in my opinion, I don't know if it fit Peach. But at the same time, I mean,
well, Peach doesn't have a brother like Mario. So
yeah,
I would actually disagree with you because Mario has his family. He wants to make his dad proud. He wants to save his brother, and I hinted at he was falling in love with Peach. Peach only has the kingdom to take care of, quite frankly. So Mario had the best character build because it looks like him and Luigi got closer.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and ultimately that was the main character development, but it was already built to start with that Mario and Luigi are brothers, and really the main thing about the film that Mario said multiple times was, "When we're together, nothing can hurt us," which is a bit trite, but ultimately that was the theme, and yeah, I won't go on too long about it because yeah, again, there was not much character development at all. The characters as they were introduced, that's basically how they stayed the entire film. They changed not at all. All right, and that is all for plot and characters and dialogue, which were all somewhat slightly negative. Let's get into something that's an overwhelming positive, at least in my opinion, the visuals. I feel that this film was visually spectacular, visually stunning, and it was because of how faithful it was to the art style of modern Mario games. You guys agree? What did you think of the visuals?
10 out of 10. The power-ups were amazing.
Yes, yeah.
The only thing I wish is the mushroom. Like, whenever Mario first took the mushroom, it took him like 5 seconds to grow a size. But, I mean, that's the only thing in the visuals that I would down. Everything else was beautiful. We talked about camera movement earlier. Amazing.
Yeah, it's a very, very clean movie in all regards. There was so much color.
Yeah.
Goodness gracious. It is DreamWorks. What do you expect?
Illumination.
Sorry, Illumination.
Yeah, I don't really think highly of the visuals of Illumination films, and so I think that this was probably their best looking film.
Oh, yes.
It did
Yes.
look quite excellent, and again, that's because it was so faithful to the games, which is really interesting because the 1993 live action film was so extremely different.
Oh my
this is so extremely similar. They're two polar opposites.
Nintendo did have to watch that movie, and if they didn't approve of it, they wouldn't let it be casted. So maybe before it was not as colorful.
Yeah, I think Nintendo has high standards. That definitely Nintendo being involved.
Not mentioning a certain video game, but we're fine. Okay.
Yeah, and it was so surreal to see the Mushroom Kingdom and the world of the Mario games realized on such a huge scale, such a, again, visually spectacular scale. So yeah, all the environments were excellent looking, but of course, some of them we didn't get into much detail because there was a montage where the characters traveled through locations relatively quickly. We didn't get to see much of that. But, I mean, the places we got to see that were where most of the film took place, those were excellent looking, spectacular looking set pieces and animation. Top notch. And moving on, we're going to discuss something that I think was also another huge positive, another excellent element, and that was the music. Just like the visuals, I think the music was overwhelmingly excellent because of its fidelity to the games. Composer Brian Tyler did an excellent job of incorporating classic motifs from the games, composed by Koji Kondo and all the others who've worked on the Super Mario series, and he put those into the film so naturally, making a score that was one of the best parts of the movie, in my opinion. What did you guys think of the soundtrack, the score of the film?
Well, I'll put it out there. There were a lot of remixes, but they were very good remixes. They weren't forced in the movie. They fit, like you said, they fit the movie very well. And even the movies, the songs that weren't songs from the game, I think fit. And at times they felt, I believe it's already been stated, they felt like pushed sometimes, like Thunderstruck. I think there was multiple things I could have used, I believe, instead from the game that would have been more fitting. But I mean, I think the music they used was good. I think it fit the movie.
Yeah, and again, that's down to just, yeah, like you said, so many classic songs remixed and placed lightly and gently in so that they fit so naturally.
It's really that background music.
Yeah,
that counts in the movie.
And it's not too loud, so you get sidetracked on only the music. Like, it's there, so it's...
They gave a Mario vibe for people who
Yeah.
had already played Mario. Like, somebody just walking into the Mario movie probably wouldn't appreciate the music as much, but knowing Nintendo games and their soundtracks, I feel like improved the Mario movie experience for me.
Yeah, music is always such a huge part of Mario games, and it's also a huge part of movies, and so that was very excellent. And let's get to something about the music I personally did not like as much, and something that stood out as a sore thumb to me. Of course, that's the lyrical songs, and I know you guys are dying to discuss, especially you, Jetstream and Tonywony, you're dying to discuss a certain song by Jack Black. But first, I want to talk briefly about a personal pet peeve of mine. Let me tell you about licensed songs. I'm not a big fan of licensed songs in movies. Sometimes it feels like a cheap bone to throw out to audiences, and I understand. Some people like that. But that has a place in other films, but not in the Mario film. It's the Mario movie. Use Mario music. Do not use Take On Me, for example, was one of the licensed songs that they used in the film. And that didn't really fit to me. I understand. That's a common thing to do in films, but the Super Mario Brothers movie, for me at least, is supposed to be an uncommon film. Something that shouldn't follow all those trends, and yeah, it does.
I mean,
and
this has been how many years in the making? You know, like...
it's 5 years in development and 30 years since the last Mario film. Yeah,
30 years. Yeah.
Okay, I'll let you loose, Tonywony and Jetstream, to talk about Jack Black's single in the film as Bowser on the piano, Peaches.
Oh, yes. So let me set the stage. We have Jack Black's stellar performance up until this point as Bowser, and we get into this emotional, heartfelt, just heart-wrenching performance by Jack Black, and it just piano, Bowser. That's all I need to know. And then from there, we have this. How would you describe? How did you feel in the first opening lines of that song?
Horrified. I'm sure you did too, Dr. Normal.
Think of a 4-year-old child in Pompeii as Mount Vesuvius is erupting. Alright? And think of this child writing their homework while this thing is erupting, panicking, or like writing a will. Maybe an older lady writing a will. This is how well this song was written. I would dig up a tablet and compare it to this. Terrible. Now, I'm very sorry about the people of Pompeii and Mount Vesuvius. I'm sorry about that, but I've compared a panicking Pompeii civilian handwriting to this songwriting. It's terrible.
Oh, and the song only digresses. Goodness
Oh
gracious!
yes, that's true.
Yeah, it was written by Jack Black himself, and it's mostly him screaming Peaches.
Yeah, I mean it's.
Oh,
I don't know. I don't really expect
and it was
Bowser
played
to have
twice.
any musical talent in the first
It was
place.
played twice.
So when he sings this really awful song
It's
about
so
his love
fitting.
for Peach, it kind of works.
No,
Like,
no.
I feel it does. Like
Oh, man.
he's this big evil villain, and then he's singing this cringy song.
This
about,
movie
like,
would
his
have gotten
crush.
50% instead of 56% Rotten Tomatoes if this song was not in there. It would be much better. That song was a waste of time.
I liked it.
Why not spend how long was that song? 2 minutes? One and a half? Do that in a wardrobe montage. What he should wear. Or just use that time somewhere else. All you gotta do is say, I love Peach, I want to marry her, and you don't have to write a song about her. Writing a song about someone doesn't mean that they're going to fall in love with you, and it doesn't mean you're really in love with someone, basically.
I just feel like it it kind of helped show like Bowser's just totally ridiculous affection for Peach. Like,
Now he can't play the piano. I did not know that.
Yo,
But the song, like, choose another song, dude. You know?
Yeah, it was not a great song, but some people think it's fitting. I will stay out of the debate. And I think we should move on from this topic because it's becoming the new Swanky Kong.
oh,
And speaking of Swanky Kong, we finally get to discuss what I've been talking about for so long, what I've mentioned again and again. Those Easter eggs. There were a lot in the film.
goodness, so many.
And I'm specifically well suited for this because I literally kept a notebook and jotted down any references or Easter eggs I saw. And of course, I'm a huge Super Mario fan, and I spotted a bunch before I go on and talk about all those. Which were some of your guys' favorite Easter eggs in this film?
Mine was the Ice Climber's polar bear. Every
Yeah.
time I see
Yes.
that bear, it gives me nightmares of the fish that comes out on the Super Smash Bros.
Oh, no.
Brawl map that comes up. Just that polar bear is so iconic. The pink swimming trunks and the sunglasses.
Oh,
But I'm sorry. I have to correct, but the polar bear's from Ice Climbers, the fish is from Balloon Fight.
Well,
But they're similar.
well, the fish that there was in the Smash Bros. Brawl map. It was. Do you remember? Did you see it? Was that really?
No,
from
I've
Balloon
never
Fight?
played Brawl.
Oh yeah, there was a fish that came up in that map. I don't think it was from Balloon Fight.
I mean, I'm gonna go ahead and go with the obvious Swanky Kong.
Swanky
Okay.
Kong. Swanky Kong.
They had to remind me who Swanky Kong was, and then I remember the one cart, the first cart in the movie to get hit by a banana. That's the only reason I remember it. The Swanky Kong. Yay, rest in peace for hitting a banana.
Let me describe
groove and peace.
the situation that we're so enthused about. In the film, Mario and Peach and Toad are riding in a cart that a monkey is driving. The monkey grabs a banana, eats it, throws the banana peel back, and who else slips on the banana peel as he's driving his cart but Swanky Kong.
His swanky cart.
Yeah, and his swanky cart is by far the swankiest Kong,
Yes.
with his golden tuxedo and his swooped up
He takes the
pitch
shot.
black hair. It was beautiful. Yeah, there were a bunch of Kongs that appeared.
But no Funky Kong. My gracious.
I mean, there
Not
was
enough.
some Kongs with sunglasses that we saw in the background, and of course, yeah, lots and lots of Kongs.
Garage Kongs.
Yeah, Kongs in the garage. There were Diddy Kong. Was referenced by name, and beside him were Dixie Kong and Chunky Kong. And if you've been paying attention, you can by now deduce which Kong was But I'm still not going to reveal the answer, even though it's obvious.
I'll change my answer.
Kong. I didn't know this
Still-
Donkey Kong.
Still a bunch. Yeah, there were a ton of Kongs, and those were some of the Easter eggs.
And Diddy Kong has an actual, like, not a kid voice. It's more like a young adult voice. Like,
Yeah.
what I heard him say was, "Oh, sorry," you know?
Yeah,
I don't, that's
Diddy
not,
Kong technically, I guess, is a teenager, maybe.
like, he's a monkey, but Donkey Kong's an ape, you know, or a gorilla or something.
All right, so we've discussed these Kongs, and now it's time for me to dive into some of the Easter eggs I spotted. I'm going to purposefully not say games that were referenced, because that was one of the questions, and I don't want to give away the answer to another question. So
I'll just change my answer.
let me detail some of the notes I scribbled of which Easter eggs I caught in the film. Again, this is not an exhaustive list. This is just the ones I spotted while watching the film for the first time. Okay, so let's go ahead and let me say another thing about the Kongs. Donkey Kong entered too, as Seth Rogen detailed, the DK rap. DK, Donkey Kong is here. But it wasn't much of the raps, which is disappointing. They should have gone
I wanted
through
the
the
whole thing.
the whole thing. And in his room, Mario had an NES on the table, and also in his room and at the Punch-Out Pizzeria
Punch-Out Pizzeria, yes.
were so many references to classic Nintendo games. Luigi, his phone, when it rang, it was the startup tune for the GameCube. That was fun. And in this one scene where Mario and Luigi are running through Brooklyn, there's buckets and various construction tools placed about that mimics the setup of the blocks in 1-1 in the original Super Mario Brothers. And of course, there were so many different signs.
Wrecking Crew.
Yeah, Spike from Wrecking
yes.
Crew was a character. And there were so many different signs that just referenced Nintendo things. In Toad Town, there was a Crazy Cat store from Super Mario Odyssey. And of course, we mentioned this earlier, but some toads make a reference to Princess Peach being in another castle. And that's a nice
in
reference.
mockery of
What was that a
Mario.
reference to?
That was a reference to the line in Super Mario Brothers where the toad says, "I'm sorry, but your princess is in another castle."
I didn't
After you
know
spend all that
After you
time
spend the whole
getting-
time getting to the castle, every single one of them.
Yeah, and besides, besides all the motifs remixed for the film, one portion there was some music taken directly from Bowser's Fury, Super Mario 3D World plus Bowser's Fury, the theme music for Fury Bowser. There was a part that looked like Bomb Battlefield. There was a part that looked like the Cheep Cheep Bridge from Super Mario 3D Land. Of course, we talked about one character being Lumily, who's from Super Mario Galaxy. That was fun.
No Wario and Waluigi.
No Wario and Waluigi.
yes.
Baby Mario and Baby Luigi,
They
also
were
Baby
secretly-
Peach, made appearances.
And no Rosalina.
Yeah, and there's this one scene where Baby Luigi and Baby Mario are being bullied by another baby, and that should have been Baby.
Was
Luigi. It wasn't.
Possibly
Wow.
Baby Luigi.
I'm going to cut that part out. That's for spoiler section. Spoiler section. And also, going back to the Donkey Kong scene, of course, the layout of it, there were girders, just like the original Donkey Kong arcade game. Donkey Kong's treehouse appears, which appears very similar to Donkey Kong Country. And in that, there's a map that's styled after the map in Super Mario World.
No King K. Rool.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
But some of them you might just have to go, and if you see some that we may have missed, we need to know.
Yeah, there are a ton of references.
Yeah.
And I'm probably going to be spending the next few days learning about different references. And finally, there's this one scene where Mario and Donkey Kong are swallowed by a mall ray. Borrows its design from Super Mario Odyssey, and of course, terrified so many kids in Super Mario 64. That's just a handful of the Easter eggs. There were so many Easter eggs in this film. This film is basically an extended Easter egg hunt for Mario and Nintendo fans, which ultimately, Easter eggs should never be what makes a film. But for a franchise that has such a rich history as the Super Mario Brothers franchise, I'll allow it because, again, there's so much you can reference from this
Yeah,
history.
it's
It was
For adult viewers,
That's so
Easter
much
eggs help out the movie rating.
Yeah.
For adult
they
viewers,
carry it along.
kids aren't going to, little kids aren't going to know that Little Mac was referenced, or the original Jumpman arcade game.
Yeah.
Especially the Polar Bear. I don't think they'll know the Polar Bear
Yeah.
It gives some older viewers credit, for older games.
for living.
Yeah, for living.
Oh dear, yeah. So yeah, the plot is for kids, but the Easter eggs, they're for the fans. Alright, and here's another section that we've probably been anticipating. We are entering the spoiler zone. Warning, I repeat, warning, warning, we are entering the spoiler zone. You have been warned.
You have permission to
Yeah,
skip. You have permission to skip if you don't want to hear spoilers, but that's the only time you can skip in the podcast.
I want to discuss something that is technically a spoiler, even though it's in the first few minutes of the film, is Charles Martinet's role in the film.
Let's go.
I believe, I'm not sure, I'll need to confirm this later, but I think I heard his voice twice in the film, not twice lines, but he voiced two characters. And I believe one of them was a man who...
Standing beside the.
Jumpman vending.
Yes.
Yeah,
It was arcade.
Yeah,
Yes,
he was
he
playing...
turns around after the commercial is played.
Yeah, he was playing a Jumpman arcade machine, which of course Jumpman was Mario's original name, styled after Donkey Kong, and he said something very Mario-esque. And he had the white hair, kind of even looked like Mario. But that was Charles Martinet's role. And in one of his roles, that is. I believe he also voiced Mario's father. It sounded like Charles Martinet's voice, but I'm not sure. But I think that those were the two characters voiced by Charles Martinet, because we have been told by Miyamoto, back when the cast was revealed, that Charles Martinet would have multiple cameos in the film, and I think those were his two roles, as this man playing Jumpman and as Mario's father. Which is very nice, very fitting for such a legend in the Mario franchise, and I'm glad that they found a role for Charles Martinet that fit him pretty well. And so, before we move on to what some might consider the biggest spoiler, let's talk about the climax of the film and what happened during the climax of the film. What do you guys think of that climax?
I mean, I kind of saw it coming.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah. Mario and
I think it was
Luigi
laid out
using the
first.
Superstar.
Yes.
Yeah, together. Like, I mean,
It was laid
just
out in
kinda-
the first contact with Mushroom Kingdom, or I guess
As soon as you saw the Superstar,
No, okay, the
you knew
second
it
you
was
saw the
coming.
Superstar, you know.
Yeah, and that goes.
Yeah, I'll take that back.
But yeah, and that again goes back to Mario's line to Luigi that when we're together, nothing can stop us or nothing can hurt us. But yeah, it was pretty fun though, having the Superstar theme playing while they just mash through Bowser's minions.
Everything,
Like-
everything.
Yeah, when before they were so weak. In this climax, they had the Superstar, but everything had been sucked to Brooklyn, to the quote-unquote real world, which I'm so glad they didn't call it the real world,
Mm-hmm.
like they did in the Super Mario Bros. Super Show, because why are you calling this the real world? Are you saying the Mushroom Kingdom isn't real? But yeah, the climax happened in Brooklyn after they fought Bowser, and it was all sucked into the warp pipe, which surprised me because that's similar to what happened in 1993 live-action film, where our world and this other world merged together for the climax of the film. All right, and now we talk about the post-credits scene. What do you guys think of the post-credits scene? Not the mid-credits scene.
Which one?
The mid-credits scene was Bowser playing that song,
Again.
Peaches again.
It deserves
We don't need-
to be revisited.
We don't need to talk about that again. Let's talk about the actual
The
post-credits scene.
post-credit scene, it takes a while to get to. It's only like 5 seconds long. Again, spoiler,
if
you
that
can
long.
skip this. The only time you can skip,
If that
if you don't want to hear, it is a Yoshi egg hatching. We don't know if it's a baby Yoshi, because in Super Mario Bros. Wii, if a Yoshi egg appears, it hatches an adult Yoshi. I don't know. I'm thinking it's an adult Yoshi, because Mario can't ride a baby. They can pick up a baby.
Baby Yoshi would be so cute.
It
Yeah, I
would,
would
but,
be so
but
dizzy
adult,
if Baby
but
Yoshi.
So
yeah.
many viewers.
If
But-
Yoshi appears in the next film, if he's the main point of the next film, they're definitely going to do baby Yoshis. People in films love doing baby things to appease the audience.
But it hints at a definite possibility. Well, it hints to a plot for the next film.
Yeah.
I think they will do one, but it might be a few years.
Getting Super Mario World vibes, definitely.
And
I
also,
was a big animal person, so when they ran by and saw the Yoshis and Mario grabbed the apple and started eating it, I was really hoping for some
yes,
Yoshi
exactly.
action in that
That's
movie.
what I was just about to say.
And when it was over, I was kind of sad because you only got to see a second
not even
of
a
Yoshis.
second. Not even a second.
Not
of
even a
Yoshis.
second. But then there was the Yoshi egg that hatched and then it went black. I was hoping to see
Yeah.
baby Yoshi. But it promises more for the future of
Yes,
Of Yoshi.
if there's a movie,
hopefully.
guarantee it to be.
Yeah, and that Yoshi egg was previously in an antique shop, which I completely forgot to mention in the Easter egg section. There was an antique shop in the Mushroom Kingdom that had pixelated forms of so many different items from the
The
series.
cat bell.
Yeah. Ultimately, that was something that we saw in the very first look we got of the film of the teaser poster. That antique shop is featured prominently. So we already knew about all those. But yeah, the post-credit scene, yeah. Yoshi, pretty nice. But ultimately, for me, I think that the post-credit scene disappointed me because I set my expectations too high. Because the film industry is at a point where blockbusters need to set up the next blockbusters. Yeah, and they need to set up those next blockbusters, and they need to set up those next ones, and next ones, and next ones, until the franchise ultimately
Collapse.
implodes. And that is a very tiring practice. And when it comes to these post-credit scenes, we expect so much out of them. We expect something so exciting, a new character or something. That's usually what they are. But really, I expected Yoshi to appear in the film itself. And so, having as a post-credit scene, I was expecting, someone, I guess not as universally beloved as Yoshi, someone like Rosaline or Daisy. Not a classic Mario character, again, because I expected him to appear in the film itself. And that's basically all the elements of the film that we're here to discuss. So,
Go
now
watch it.
Yeah.
Oh,
Go watch it. It's
yes.
worth it.
Oh,
It's certainly worth it.
well, we're not over with the episode yet, though.
We've got trivia.
Yeah, now with all those elements discussed, let's finally return to Rapid Recall to see the answers to those Rapid Recall questions I asked at the beginning of the episode and see whether you guys answered them correctly.
And if you skipped all the way here, shame on you.
Shame on you, yeah.
Shame on you.
You should have waited for the answers. Have patience, please.
Mm-hmm.
All right. The first question was who was not at Bowser's wedding? That was a pretty easy question. You guys all guessed correctly. King K. Rool was not there. King Boo and King Babam were there.
I wanted to see him so bad.
Yeah.
It hurt me.
I was sad to miss.
Save him for a Donkey Kong spinoff that's rumored.
Okay, that's true.
Yeah. So yeah, King Boo and King Babam were there. Luigi's Mansion movie confirmed. And now, I asked you guys which of these Kongs did not appear. And the options were Swanky, Chunky, and Karate.
Guess
You guys guessed
Chunky
Chunky
Kong.
Kong.
Yeah.
Oh, and Tonywony, you guessed Karate Kong?
Yes.
So Tonywony was the only one to get that right.
Oh.
Karate Kong did not appear. Karate Kong is a villain in Donkey Kong Jungle Beat. And finally, for the ridiculously hard question with 7, but actually 8 options because I added another one.
Ice Climbers was the 8th.
Yeah.
Yes.
Which, of course, I added that, and so you guys know that it was
No.
in the film because Dr.
Go
Norman
back
talked
and
about the
listen.
polar bear.
You go back and listen to how we added that 8th in there.
So the options were Kid Icarus, Duck Hunt, Star Fox, Bubble Bobble, The Legend of Zelda, Punch Out, Balloon Fight, and Ice Climbers. All of those appeared except for Bubble Bobble. So Dr. Normal, you were the only one who got that right.
May I ask, what was the Zelda reference?
Yes.
okay.
I was okay.
So in the Super Mario Brothers
Is it
commercial, one of the streets is named Link Street.
You told me that in the
Yeah.
film. Okay.
And Kid Icarus was referenced. Mario played Kid Icarus. I don't know why he's playing Kid Icarus. Play a better game, man. Kid Icarus is fine, but play Zelda.
I feel like I know if I would have seen. I feel like I would know what Bubble Bobble is if I saw it.
Yeah.
So,
Star Fox, there was an R-Wing above Mario's NES. And again, The Legend of Zelda, there was a Link Street. Punch Out, there was Punch Out Pizzeria with pictures of various Punch Out fighters
and
on the wall.
the coach was there too.
Yeah, there was Doc Lewis, yeah. And lastly, Balloon Fight, there was a sign with the main character from Balloon Fight, the player character, in the film. Alright. And finally, we come to the conclusion of this discussion. I have a few final questions for us to answer before we are done. First, would you recommend this film to someone else, Nintendo fan or not?
I wouldn't recommend it to an adult. I would recommend it to someone who knows Mario. I would recommend it to a parent, but if it's one of them looks like a 27 to something, if it's like a 27-year-old who doesn't know anything about Nintendo, which you need to get out more if you are 27 years old and don't know what Nintendo is, I wouldn't recommend it if you were in that section where you don't know anything about Nintendo.
Yeah,
Great kids movie, great Nintendo fan movie, but
Yeah,
if you don't know anything about it, it's just gonna hurt your head.
it's for the fans first and foremost, and also
And
for
Easter
the
egg
children.
Easter egg hunters.
for the fans and families.
Yeah. So, would you recommend it to anyone else, Tonywony?
If someone doesn't have any experience with Mario, I don't think a lot of it would go above the head. I think it would just be too chaotic, too random if you hadn't already known the franchise or known the series. But I think for families, great movie, and for fans of Mario, also a great movie. I mean, it had a lot of references, a lot of Easter eggs, so those are very enjoyable. And those are just the ones that we noticed, you know.
Yeah.
I imagine there's so many more.
I'm probably going to spot even more the second time through.
Oh my gosh, yes. Yeah. So there's definitely something there for fans.
And you, Jetstream, what do you think? Would you recommend it?
I pretty much agree with Dr. Normal and Tonywony. I think that it's a good kids movie. Adults that have kids will enjoy it, but it's not really for somebody who doesn't know Mario and has more than like a 3/10-second attention span, you know? So, maybe not for, like, working adults.
Yeah.
But it was still a good movie.
Dr. Normal says it's for fans and kids. Tonywony seconds that. Jetstream thirds that. And I fourth it. Yeah, I agree. You should really only see this film if you are a Mario fan, or if you have young children who enjoy these sorts of films. And ultimately, if you're not a Mario fan, why are you listening to this podcast at all?
Yes.
But yeah, it's for the fans first and foremost, and also for the children. The next question is, would you wish to watch this film again a second time, or a third time, or fourth time, or so on.
Yes.
Yeah, at least the second time. I'd be looking forward to the references.
Yeah, catching even
I
more
missed
Easter
Link
eggs.
Street, so I'd like to see that personally, to go again and see
It
that.
was on the map.
Mm-hmm.
On the map? Okay.
Yeah, would you?
I mean, yeah, I think so. But I might rather spend my time watching
More Bowser singing.
No,
What?
no. I was thinking
Watching
more
Peaches
like
and Baloo.
yeah, watching Peaches on a
Oh dear.
We still haven't seen the music video.
No,
We'll
like,
watch that afterwards.
Listeners, don't waste your time.
but it was. Yeah, I'd probably watch it again.
Yeah, but maybe a second time to catch any more Easter eggs, but maybe not a third or fourth time, right?
It would
Yeah.
get boring after, third or fourth time.
Yeah. For me, this isn't even a question. Of course, I'm going to watch it again and again over the next few months and years because I'm a Mario fan and I enjoy those references. I'm a lifelong Mario fan who grew up with the series, and so again, I think any future viewings will continue the extended Easter egg hunt, searching for references that I missed. And despite its mediocrity and it's just being simple, colorful chaos, I watched this film out of loyalty and love for the franchise, and also for hopes for future Nintendo projects. And because, while watching it may not be the best time, it is certainly a fun time, especially watching with friends like you guys. It was a blast. And so, lastly, how would you rate the Super Mario Bros. Movie on a scale of 1 to 10?
7.3.
Are we rating against all movies or against kids movies, in its genre?
I think ultimately against all movies.
All movies?
Just judging the Super Mario Bros. Movie as a movie.
Well, hold on. I don't think judging it against the movie is right, because then it's going to get a less rating from me. I'm thinking we should change that maybe to how it met our expectations.
Mm-hmm.
That's going to get a higher grade, and it hasn't. I just saw it today. I haven't had that much time to process it, so I think just on our expectations, we should judge it. So I'm going for the 7.3.
And that's also a valid point we just saw today. We're still processing, and
There's a lot to process.
yeah, it was a bunch of 92 minutes of colorful chaos crammed in. And yeah, like Dr. Normal said, yeah, we just watched it. So, I mean, these opinions, we'll probably stick to them generally. But, I mean, these are our initial impressions. Who knows? Maybe in a few years, we'll be like, this film was the worst, and we hate it. But yeah, so Dr. Normal would give it a 7.3. What about you, Tonywony?
I'd say I'll say 7.5. I was going to say 7 to 8, 7.5. It was a good film. I think Rotten Tomatoes is a bit too harsh on it. I think it definitely had its moments. I appreciated the film. Definitely up there. And I rate movies hard, so that's a good rating for me. I would never give anything a 9 or a 10 just because I haven't seen a movie that good yet.
Yeah, for me, probably a 6. But that's just because it was lacking in plot and character development, which is really what makes or breaks a movie for me. And I get that wasn't the point of the movie, but still, as it being a movie, it would probably score lower. Scoring it as a kid's movie, it'd probably get an 8. But me being me, seeing movies I've seen, probably a 6.
Yeah, probably somewhere in between that. I think I'll give it a 7. It's one of the best video game adaptations I've ever seen because of its fidelity to the source material. It's a truly wonderful and whimsical time, mainly just for Mario fans. Again, it's for fans first and foremost. It's for fans of every generation, as long as you enter it not expecting too much. Again, the plot is poor, the pacing is poor, but it's pretty powerful in its visuals and its music. The music is a wonderful tribute to the series, as are the faithful visuals. Once again, watching the Super Mario Bros. Movie may not be the best time, but it's a pretty fun time for fans of all ages. And this film, I think, is an energetic love letter to the series that could have been so much more, but ultimately, it's an excellent love letter. I was equal parts disappointed and delighted by it. Alright, and that about wraps up our thoughts and our discussion on the Super Mario Bros. Movie. Any final thoughts on the film?
One thing I did like about the film, looking back on it, was there were lots of characters featured, like especially in the background that I feel like you don't really get in most animation movies.
It had depth.
You know, like there were lots of Donkey Kongs,
Yes.
and there were lots of Shells, and there were, I mean,
Well, there's almost 30 years
Lots
of
of
games to cram
Toads.
into this.
and there were lots of Toads, and I appreciate that because it makes it feel more realistic. Like all of the random bystanders just taking collateral damage. I mean, yeah, speaks
Like
a lot
that
to
poor Koopa that got pelted right inside Bowser.
it. Right, exactly. Like you don't see that in like the Minions movie. You know, like anywhere they go, it's just deserted. There like aren't any humans there until there need to be.
Yeah, it just seems cheap. Like there's not enough
Yeah, it makes
characters
it
to build.
seem less cheap when there are like giant armies, but
Yeah.
you're focused on one part and
Mhm.
lots of cameos. So
Yeah, and again, the Super Mario franchise has such a rich history, and again, that contributes to the characters of this film, some of the background characters. 42 years of Mario history crammed into 92 minutes, which is colorful chaos, a bit of a breakneck pace. Thank you, Jetstream. But again, it's a fun time for fans. And so I'll provide my final thoughts. Well, the Super Mario Brothers movie may have disappointed me and delighted me in equal parts, but I know that in a month, Tears of the Kingdom will release. It'll be a masterpiece, and it won't disappoint us. So, the Super Mario Brothers movie may have slightly been the subpar Mario Bros. Just to throw out a bit of a pun. But Tears of the Kingdom will be a masterpiece. So there's that. I can't help but insert Tears of the Kingdom into any discussion. So yeah, thank you so much, Tonywony and Jetstream and
Pleasure.
Dr. Normal for joining me.
it was
Yeah,
Thanks.
It's a pleasure.
it was such a blast to watch the Super Mario Brothers movie with you guys and discuss it. Thank you so much for joining us. Well, all of this was a blast. It was so good to be back with you guys, back together for a format discussion GameCast episode with the authors of Kiro Tarakai, some of my best friends. I hope you have enjoyed listening to this episode of the Kiro Tarakai GameCast. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me at kirotarakai@gmail.com. I'd be happy to answer any questions or requests you have. For more Kiro Tarakai content, be sure to check out the Kiro Tarakai homepage, the link to which is in the episode description. Well, I would like to once again thank each of our guests for coming, for going to watch the Super Mario Bros. Movie with me, and coming here and discussing it. And I would also like to thank DJ Duenner for composing and performing the musical themes of the Kiro Tarakai GameCast. Lastly, I would like to thank you for listening. I'm Fawful DX, and I'll see you next time on the Kiro Tarakai GameCast.
Crazy guys, a crazy name. It's gonna be a blast. It's the Kiro Tarakai